This is Marshall Jones, and this is part of my video series on best practices in online teaching. And today we're going to be talking about managing video lectures. Eventually you're going to want to do this. You're going to want to create some videos to put in your online classes. I do want to, before we talk about managing those, to talk just a moment about using open educational resources, or OERs. So these are things you might find on the internet that are free and licensed for you to use and to put in your classes. Now, the advantage of that is that anything you don't have to create saves yourself time and development. However, you're going to spend a lot of time reviewing them. And you can't just watch the first 3 minutes of a video and hope that the rest of it, and assume that the rest of it is going to meet the needs of your students. You have to watch the entire thing. And sometimes when you do that, you find out that they may not need to watch the entire video. They may only need to watch the first 2 minutes or 3 minutes in the middle. And when that happens, for a pro tip, you should tell them how much of this video they're supposed to watch. So don't assume they're going to know how that video applies to them. You have to explain that to them. Another disadvantage of using open educational resources that you don't create is that they can go away. If they live on the internet, then somebody can decide that they no longer want them on the internet, and one day you find yourself with a giant hole in your class because the resource that you were using online is no longer there. So do think about those things. I absolutely would encourage you to use materials that you don't create, because it gives your students an outside perspective, a perspective beyond your own. But do consider what the disadvantages of using those are as well. Assuming that you're going to make your own, the advantage is that you can focus it specifically on your content. You can focus it specifically on your readings and your curriculum. It is, of course, time-consuming and resource-intensive to make your own, which is why I'm going to recommend that you build your materials with the idea for reusability. So, never put a date in any video that you do. As a matter of fact, never put a date on any document within an online class except for your assignments. Because if you do that, if you put a date in there and you decide to reuse it, you're going to have to go in and change the date. And trust me when I tell you, from personal experience, you will miss a date. And then some student is going to be confused by that, and you're going to spend a lot of time trying to sort it out. So save yourself a lot of heartache and learn from my misfortune by not putting any dates into anything that you do. Now, if you're going to create videos, then I would encourage you to create a log of the videos that you created. So if I am teaching a class in economics and I'm teaching about supply and demand, I might have a log that looks something like this, so that it has a topic, what module it goes in, a brief description, and then a lecture ID number, which helps me to identify it. That might go into the file name of the video, the length of time that it is, and then the date that I created it. Now, the reason that this is important is because at some point you're going to need to change those videos. And it's a good idea to review your videos periodically to make sure that they still meet the current needs of the content and your discipline. And if you have this log created, then you can look through it and see if you created something 6 years ago, maybe it's time to go in and take a look at that and redo that. Okay. Now, if you're going to do recorded lectures, do keep in mind that the Americans with Disabilities Act requires that all recorded lectures have a transcript available for a student should they ask for it. There are a couple of ways you can get a transcript. One is that you can send your video out to a service like rev.com, and they will charge you a fee per minute. There are other tools that are available that will transcribe your videos using artificial intelligence. These are getting much better and they work pretty well. But do keep in mind that you're going to have to go through and review those transcripts to make sure that artificial intelligence has translated that word from speech to text appropriately. Okay, the other thing is to chunk your content and describe it well. So if you have an hour-long video, don't make an hour-long video. Make 12 5-minute videos so that you then have the ability to post them individually, to label them well for your learners. Now, they don't have to be exactly 5 minutes. They can be longer than 5 minutes, but what you don't want to do is to post an hour-long lecture, because for a couple of reasons. One is that it's really hard for most of us to be compelling in an online lecture for an hour. It's different than being in front of a class where there are people to interact with. The other thing is that if you post it in sections and label it well, then a learner can, if they understand everything but they need to see this one again, then they can just watch that one. And it will help them to find the content that they need to review quickly, as opposed to scrolling back and forth through an hour and 10 minutes of video. The other advantage for you in doing that is that when you go back and review these, if knowledge has changed in your discipline and you have to change a video, the lighter colored ones are the ones that we're going to change. So instead of re-recording and re-editing and retranscribing an hour-long video, we're just going to do 4 5-minute chunks, and that's going to save us time. And my final tip is to leverage your colleagues. If you work in a department where there are multiple people teaching the same discipline, then spread the video creation out amongst you. It will help your learners to hear other people's voices. It will help your learners to hear other people's perspectives and opinions. And you can share those with each other so that through your organization, you can create a library of shared resources that can be used within any number of classes.